Amazing moment, struggling CEO saves pregnant girl from roof. Discover her incredible hidden truth. Jason walked the same street every day, a ghost of ambition swallowed by the relentless city that once celebrated him. At 38, he was a failed CEO, his once innovative tech startup crumbling under the weight of investor disappointment. The echoes of family expectations haunted him, the lingering judgment in their eyes as piercing as the skyscrapers towering above. He moved through the bustling crowd with a forced smile, masking the creeping sense of inadequacy that clung to him like a shadow. As the noise of honking horns and rushing feet wrapped around him, his mind raced with self-reproach. Familiar places blended into a blur. Coffee shops where he pitched revolutionary ideas, now mere reminders of lost opportunities. The universe demanded success, yet he felt like an anchor dragging down his family's dreams. He wished he could define success beyond the zeros in a bank account, yet every day felt like a reminder of his own relentless failure. Suddenly, chaos disrupted the monotony. A distant clamor drew him closer, heart quickening. What was happening? He pushed through the crowd, anxiety rising as he caught a glimpse of a girl perched perilously on a rooftop. No more than 20, visibly pregnant with fear etched on her face, she was a flickering candle about to snuff out. Without thinking, Jason rushed forward, adrenaline igniting something deep within him, a spark of courage he thought long lost. He reached her as she swayed, jagged breaths hitching in his throat. The moment wrapped itself around him. In pulling her back, he felt momentarily whole. Suddenly, the onlookers murmured gratitude, their admiration reflected in her wide, terrified brown eyes. He became an unexpected hero, no longer invisible, just a fleeting moment, a stark contrast to his perennial struggle. Why? She whispered in a trembling voice, their eyes locking in a fragile moment of understanding. The world around them fell silent, and heartbreak poured from her lips. Emily, she introduced herself, a name that held the weight of shattered expectations. Estranged from her father, a once prominent professor brought low by betrayal, she found herself fighting against society's harsh judgments, much like Jason. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The connection grew, and Jason felt an unexpected resolve. Emily possessed a brilliance she never embraced in the shadows of discrimination. Her aspirations mirrored his, her potential rekindled hope he believed extinguished. Yet as their worlds intertwined, the fog of doubt thickened. He was a drowning man in a sea of expectations, while she represented an uncharted course desperately challenging the tide of societal ignorance. The more Jason connected with Emily, the more he felt the pressure of his own life pushing against him. Torn between reviving a failed startup and acting as a safeguard for this lost soul, every decision brought him to his knees. Each night, he wrestled with the choices that haunted both of them. What would his family think of risking everything for someone they deemed below him? But could he truly stand by and let another life be marred by judgment? With their paths colliding, doubts transformed into tangible fears. One pivotal day hovered on the horizon, marked by an investor meeting he could not afford to miss. While his future teetered on its edge, Emily's hidden potential flickered brighter. The atmosphere crackled as he faced the choice between reclaiming his shattered legacy or stepping into an uncertain future with her. His heart raced, knowing their journey could be the catalyst that changed everything. But as the moment loomed, so did the shadows of their worlds. The anguish of their choices tightened around him. He stood at the precipice, caught in a whirlwind of tumultuous decisions. Would they align in pursuit of something greater or be crushed under the weight of societal constraints? The burning tension danced between them, leaving the truth teetering just out of reach. Jason stared blankly at the wall of his cramped office, the fluorescent lights buzzing above him, a constant reminder of everything that felt wrong. The investor meeting loomed just hours away, aggregating pressure in a way that had become achingly familiar. But today it felt different. Thoughts of Emily danced relentlessly in his mind, drawing him from the static of his past failures. It was as if he stumbled into an entirely different universe where life still held meaning beyond profit margins. Could he have a future that included her aspirations? The idea surged like wildfire within him. He was gripped by the notion that in saving Emily, he inadvertently stumbled upon the opportunity to save himself too. Would risking everything on a girl he scarcely knew be worth it? The decision loomed like the skyline before him, sharp, daunting, but thrillingly beautiful. In her presence, he felt alive, ignited by an energy that had long since faded in business meetings filled with cold calculations and insincere smiles. As he paced his office floor, each step felt weighty with indecision. He was at war with himself. Could he afford to care? The negative whispers from his past experiences wrapped around him like fog, urging him to prioritize cold practicality over the warmth of genuine connection. The voices of his family members echoed in his head. Success meant stability, not reckless notions of care and compassion. Then there was the moment when she had looked into his eyes with unguarded fear, barely holding on to life on that rooftop. So vulnerable, yet so full of longing. How could he abandon that desire for her future? Could he truly walk into the investor's office in a few hours and pitch a dead dream when life itself surged around him, begging for recognition? In those fleeting moments, clarity emerged. This wasn't merely about investors and funding, it was about authenticity in a world demanding facades. Jason's heart raced as he felt a shiver of determination running through him. His life had been a pursuit of hollow accomplishments, yet here lay an opportunity, one that converged his aspiration with another: survival. He had to break free from mere survival mode. To truly live, he would have to embrace the unknown. The clock ticked mercilessly as Jason planned his next steps. With Emily's brilliance swirling in his mind, the pitch began to morph. What if he articulated not only the vision for the business but also the story that exemplified their shared struggles? He could leverage their connection to depict a narrative powerful enough to bypass investors' reluctance. Convincing them about new ideas would require more than just statistics. He realized he needed to pull at their hearts. As he carefully crafted points for his presentation, Jason began to understand that he had never fully capitalized on his own narrative. Failure had fortified him, but until now, he'd hidden behind it. Each word he wrote became less about avoidance and more about acceptance. Perhaps the real pitch was to prove that success meant more than winning. It meant connection, hope, and rebuilding. But as he prepared, the clock ticked closer to the meeting. A consuming anxiety replaced exhilaration. The weight of his choices bore down on him. As he sprinted down the street toward the conference room, each beat of his heart harmonized with the fading echoes of Emily in his mind. Why? She had asked her questions, stirring something profound in him. The burning uncertainties pulsed. Would his narrative resonate? Would he truly be able to align their stories in a way that showcased both their strengths? He could physically feel the tension between societal expectations and authentic vulnerability nestling inside him. The moment of truth was upon him. Would Jason take the leap into this unknown, risking a path of disappointment, or would he find the courage to embrace a burgeoning legacy built on personal connection? As he stood before the towering glass doors of the conference room, anxiety battled hope within him. No more waiting. This was the day he would redefine not just his career but his life. The moment drew near. Would he follow through, or would fear once again shackle him to his past? As Jason pushed through the glass doors and entered the conference room, he was met with the intent gazes of a long table filled with investors. Their faces, a mixture of skepticism and expectation, heightened the tension in the air. He could feel his pulse quicken, the weight of the moment crashing over him like a wave. He wasn't just fighting for funds, he was battling fear, trepidation, and an overwhelming desire to be seen for more than just what he could sell. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice steadier than he felt. "I want to share a story with you." He scanned their expressions, searching for any sign of engagement. At that moment, he resolved to weave his narrative with Emily's, a blend of business and humanity that could redefine their perceptions. My company has faced its share of setbacks, and I've learned much from my failures. However, a recent experience has transformed my understanding. Drawing in a deep breath, Jason recalled those frantic seconds on the rooftop, Emily's terrified eyes pleading for life. I found myself in a situation that forced me to reassess my motivations. The investors leaned in, intrigued. He was touching on a deeper truth that resonated far beyond the metrics displayed on the slides. He continued, punctuating each sentence with raw authenticity. It's not just about profit margins, it's about real connection, finding purpose in what we do. In that moment, staring into the eyes of someone who felt hopeless, I realized that every story we create is tied to another person's aspirations. Emily's dream, her life, became my impetus. As he spoke, he envisioned Emily's future entwined with his narrative, showing the investors that their ambitions could contribute to something meaningful. Momentum began to build. His words transformed into a mantra: empathy, collaboration, connection. He illustrated how their investments could not just ignite profit but real change. An unexpected clarity washed over him. Imagine a product designed not merely for profit but for impact. A vision that doesn't just satiate market demand but rekindles hope. What would that be worth to you? Tension lingered, and he sensed their skepticism lingering as he presented data and projections woven seamlessly into his narrative. The dry numbers were suddenly connected to a soul, Emily, a tangible presence that made them feel. Logic entwined with emotion molded his pitch into something far more compelling than he'd anticipated. Then came the silence, unbearably thick, stretching after he finished. A cacophony of thoughts collided in his mind, each one urging him to retreat. Fear wormed its way in, whispering that they would dismiss him for stepping away from cold pragmatism. What if he failed? Yet, every part of him resisted that instinct. One investor, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes, broke the stillness. "You're presenting an intriguing concept, Jason." Her tone was cautiously optimistic, but doubt lingered. "What makes you so certain this approach will resonate in an age of calculated risk?" With adrenaline surging, Jason found his footing again. "Because it's about more than just numbers, it's about connection in a disconnected world. I learned that through my experience with Emily. To invest in a story is to believe in hope. If we don't embrace that approach, we risk becoming irrelevant." The atmosphere shifted, he could feel it. When the meeting concluded, Jason left with uncertainty still nipping at his heels. Would they invest? The realization swept over him that despite the outcome, he was reconciling with his past self, who had operated merely to survive, never daring to invoke change. He had chosen to act not as a detached businessperson but as a human being driven by a genuine story, but as he stepped into the city street, the adrenaline began to fade, replaced by a looming realization: he wasn't finished yet. There were still threads to untangle. What would he do next if he succeeded? The fear of reconnecting a life with Emily ignited questions that clawed at him as he walked away from the conference room. What if embracing this connection required even greater sacrifices? Would he ultimately risk everything to allow Emily a future, or would the same fear that had once paralyzed him tighten its grip? The echoes of the day lingered as he understood he had only just begun to confront the true stakes of his journey. The crisp air hit Jason's face as he stepped onto the bustling street, the city alive with its own relentless energy. Each beat of the pavement felt like a heartbeat, but within him, something was transforming. He wasn't just a businessman anymore, he was a man on a mission, grappling with the immense implications of his decisions. The realization that he had taken a step into vulnerability stirred an unnerving mixture of exhilaration and dread. He pulled out his phone, his fingers hovering over Emily's number. The instinct to connect surged within him, but doubt sank its claws into his resolve. What could he say? How could he convey that he had been changed profoundly by the moment they had shared? The prospect of initiating a conversation felt monumental. Would she even want to hear from him? Shaking off the anxiety, he grabbed a coffee from a nearby cafe, hoping the caffeine could fuel his clarity. But as he sat at a small table, steam rising from the cup, his thoughts spiraled back to the meeting. The investor's hopeful yet skeptical gaze lingered in his mind. He had planted seeds of hope in the room, yet how had the investors truly perceived him? Was it a fleeting moment of empathy, or could he create a lasting impact? His phone buzzed in his pocket, jolting him from his reverie. He glanced at the screen. It was a message from a childhood friend who had heard about his recent endeavors. "Heard you're making waves in the business world, man. Any news on that pitch?" The encouragement felt like a lifeline, reminding him of who he was before ambition consumed him. Jason took a deep breath, recognizing that every interaction held weight. He began drafting a response, but before sending it, reflection crashed into him again. What did he want beyond success? What would fulfillment look like? The desire to contribute meaningfully had driven him to this point, yet the prospect of re-establishing a connection with Emily raised the stakes higher. His mind drifted to the tumultuous evening she had shared her dreams with him. Was there a way to tie those dreams into his professional vision? If he threw himself fully into this ambition of redefining hope, might he also inadvertently help her grasp her own aspirations? Could they collaborate? The coffee turned lukewarm as he turned these possibilities over in his mind. Yet, lurking beneath the surface was the nagging fear of inadequacy. What if he reached out to her and it all crumbled? The thought twisted like a coil in his stomach. Standing at the precipice of his ambitions, he was torn between his ambition and the pulling tide of past decisions and regret. Realizing he needed to ground himself, he needed a plan. Jason grabbed a napkin and penned a few notes, tapping into the emerging themes of connection, purpose, and shared dreams. Each thought felt like a step toward clarity, but as he wrote, shadows of doubt crept back in. Was he genuinely capable of turning his vision into a reality, or was it all illusion? Soon, he closed his eyes, breathing deeply as he visualized a path forward. It wasn't merely a business pitch, nor was it about numbers. It was about redefining lives, beginning with his. The journey wouldn't be easy, but he understood that confronting his fear of vulnerability was as essential as any business strategy. Finally, he took a shaky breath and sent a message to Emily, a simple yet poignant invitation to discuss their intertwined visions. The weight of that decision settled heavily on him, and the silence that followed felt deafening. In that moment, he understood that stepping towards Emily might demand everything he held dear. With anticipation and apprehension coiling in equal measure within him, he knew he was hurtling toward a crossroads where both his personal and professional spheres would collide. But could he truly embrace it? Would they forge something transformative together, or would it signal his undoing? The question lingered as he prepared to face the outcome of that vulnerability. Would this leap redefine not just him, but the lives of others? Jason's journey was unfolding, and the stakes were rising. Jason's heart raced as he left the cafe, uncertainty pulsed through him like adrenaline. He didn't know how long it would take for Emily to respond, and in that agonizing stillness, his mind wandered deeper into a labyrinth of what-ifs. What if she didn't reply? What if she saw right through him, understood the inadequacies he was grappling with? Each scenario felt more daunting than the last, but amidst the turmoil was a flicker of determination igniting within him. He navigated through the thrumming streets, where the cacophony of life seemed to echo his internal chaos. The very thought of forging a partnership with Emily excited him, yet the fear of failure loomed large. After all, this was not just about professional aspirations, it was about cultivating a relationship fraught with the potential for deeper connection or deeper hurt. As he walked, something caught his eye: a small community center with a sandwich board out front announcing a free workshop on personal development. The words "Unlock Your Potential" seemed like a challenge thrown directly at him. What was he waiting for? Shouldn't he explore every avenue to discover not just professional success, but personal authenticity? The decision formed quickly in his mind. He entered the center, where the familiar warmth of a supportive environment wrapped around him. A few scattered chairs filled the room, and Jason found a spot near the front, feeling a surge of anticipation as the speaker, an older woman with a kind smile, introduced the workshop. As the session progressed, she spoke of embracing one's vulnerabilities as avenues for growth. Jason listened intently, the discussion about personal freedom echoing his recent realizations. Vulnerability wasn't weakness, it was strength, the culmination of having faced fears and acted despite them. He recalled Emily's ambitions, her aspirations. How had he forgotten that connection could be the source of remarkable transformation? The workshop's exercises pushed him further, often demanding self-reflection, challenging him to confront his own shortcomings. Each prompt seemed to peel away layers he had been hiding behind for too long. With every question, he uncovered a stronger sense of self, a quiet confidence that began to replace the overwhelming doubts. He wasn't just a businessman anymore, he was a man ready to link his passions with purpose. At the close of the session, he felt lighter, the weight of indecision replaced with clarity. He jotted down goals, including one crucial note: share his journey with Emily. The thought of reaching out didn't fill him with dread anymore, instead, it seemed like the only logical next step. He realized their shared vision could be powerful. Walking out of the center, sunlight bathed him in warmth. He could see various paths diverging in front of him, every choice shimmered with possibility. The buzzing of his phone broke his reverie. It was Emily. She had replied. "Hey, Jason. I'd love to talk. When are you free?" In that moment, the flicker of doubt was replaced with resolve. The stakes had been raised dramatically, but he felt ready. This was at the intersection of his personal growth and professional aspiration. As he typed a response suggesting they meet at the park to combine fresh air with fresh ideas, the implications of their potential collaboration whirled in his mind. Could they create something groundbreaking together? Jason held his breath, anticipation thrumming in his veins, and yet, a whisper of fear lingered. Were they truly aligned, or was this merely a reflection of his desire to escape his own inadequacies? The sun dipped low as he hit send, the fading light casting long shadows. What would this conversation unveil? Would it lead him closer to the clarity he sought, or unleash complexities he wasn't prepared to face? The awaiting responses held the key to his next steps. He could feel it in his bones. The time had come to face not just their dreams, but the frailties that intertwined their paths. Would the next meeting ignite a spark of collaboration, or unleash the potential for painful truths? The next morning, Jason awoke with anticipation buzzing in his chest. The sunlight filtered through his window, casting soft patterns across his room, yet he felt the stillness was deceptive. Today was more than just a meeting. It was a confrontation with his own burgeoning expectations. As he readied himself, the mirror reflected a man who was slowly shedding the skin of self-doubt. He straightened his tie with a newfound determination, his earlier insecurities grounding him. This meeting with Emily wasn't simply about collaboration, it was an opportunity to forge a bond through shared aspirations, and what if he could finally articulate that vision? The park he suggested was alive with possibility, a backdrop of vibrant greenery underscoring the weight of their conversation. As he arrived, he took a moment to absorb his surroundings, ground himself in the tangible world around him. Each leaf rustling in the wind seemed to whisper encouragement, and for the first time in ages, Jason felt a sense of belonging in the moment. Emily arrived shortly after, her enthusiasm palpable. She greeted him with a bright smile, and Jason felt a flutter of comfort mixed with apprehension. They settled onto a bench beneath a sprawling oak, the muted sounds of laughter and children's play creating a lively atmosphere around them. He initiated the conversation, casually revisiting their previous discussion about intertwining their projects. As he spoke, words flowed from his mouth, weaving together ideas he had only begun to flesh out in his mind. With each sentence, he felt a hidden power emerge. He was not just sharing thoughts, he was crafting a vision. Yet, as Emily listened, Jason's mind wrestled with shadows of doubt creeping in. What if his ideas fell flat? What if the collaboration he was envisaging could unravel before it even began? He needed to pull back from that precipice of uncertainty. Do you think our different experiences could actually make something groundbreaking? He asked, his voice steady even as his mind raced. This wasn't just professional. It felt personal. Their potential partnership could ripple into something much larger than either had anticipated. Emily's eyes sparkled as she considered his question, drawing in a deep breath before responding. Absolutely. You bring a perspective that I think could enrich my work. But we need to be open about our strengths and weaknesses, embrace both. Her words resonated with him, echoing what he had gleaned from the workshop. Vulnerability as a catalyst for connection, but as they delved deeper into brainstorming, Jason felt a nagging sense of vulnerability resurfacing. He was still uncertain about fully disclosing his fears and insecurities to Emily. The very thought of dismantling his carefully constructed facade felt like stepping into a world of chaos he wasn't ready to confront. In a moment of honesty, Jason confessed, "Sometimes I worry that I'm not ready for this level of collaboration. I mean, what if I can't keep up? Or if my ideas aren't good enough?" He barely recognized the trembling voice that escaped him. It felt both liberating and terrifying to expose fragments of his self-doubt. Emily's demeanor softened. She leaned closer, encouraging him with her quiet strength. "You're not alone in that feeling. I've struggled with my own doubts too. Recognizing that is part of growing, right? But it's how we handle those insecurities that shapes the outcome." Her authenticity stirred something in Jason. They were in this together, navigating the complexities of ambition intertwined with fear. As they exchanged ideas back and forth, the conversation seemed to ignite a spark, illuminating paths filled with potential. But beneath that spark, there lay an undercurrent of tension, the fear of uncovering hidden truths still lingering. Suddenly, Emily paused, her brow furrowing as she read something in Jason's expression. "You have to trust me, Jason. We can't build anything of worth if we're holding back." The challenge hung between them like a taut wire, ready to snap under pressure. Would he take the leap of faith, or would he remain tethered to the safety of his self-imposed limitations? As they continued to explore their ideas, Jason felt the weight of choice pressing down. His next words could either solidify their burgeoning partnership or shatter the illusion of possibilities he had built. "Emily, what if I told you there's something you should know about me?" he began, sensing the gravity of the moment as the sun dipped lower behind the trees, shadows stretching like doubts yet to be put to rest. Would this revelation hurl them closer to collaboration, or might it unravel everything before it truly began? Jason's heart raced as he navigated the delicate balance between truth and fear. The weight of his confession loomed larger than anything he had faced before. This wasn't merely a spill of secrets, it stood at the precipice of transformation not just for him but for their partnership. "Believe it or not, I've been hiding a part of myself," that he hesitated, wrestling with the vulnerability creeping back. He could sense Emily's eyes searching his, waiting, urging him to continue, to break free from the invisible chains of doubt that held him hostage. "What if I'm not as capable as you think I am? I've had some past failures that haunt me," he finally blurted, the words spilling out like water from a cracked dam. Jason was shocked at his own admission. He had always prided himself on being the composed one, the strategist who moved with precision. But here, beneath the oak tree where dreams and ambitions flourished, he felt stripped to the bone, raw and exposed. Emily's expression softened further. "We all have failures, Jason. They don't define our future unless we let them." Her steady gaze pushed against the walls he had built, dismantling a few bricks with each assured word. "Something to remember," she added, "is that failure is merely the stepping stone to success. It teaches resilience." With each passing moment, Jason could feel the tide of hope washing over him, challenging the negative script he'd written about himself. Perhaps it was time to rewrite his narrative, not as a series of defeats but as a collection of lessons learned. Yet, something deeper swirled within him, an embedded belief that perhaps he needed to achieve something monumental to escape these failures entirely. "What do I do with that fear?" he questioned, his voice barely a whisper, as if speaking it aloud could summon it back to life. Emily leaned in, her words deliberate. "You own it. You acknowledge your fear and let it inform you rather than control you. The fact that you're capable of introspection shows how far you've come." A powerful pause followed, during which Jason's heart steadied slightly. It felt like he was stepping onto a bridge of acceptance, but the other side remained shrouded in mist. Suddenly, a child's laughter rang out nearby, a reminder of innocence and possibility. Jason glanced to the side, watching a girl chase after a butterfly, her joy infectious. Maybe we should approach this project like that, he contemplated, trying to connect the metaphor. With an openness to explore, to create without the weight of fears pressing down on us. Emily's smile brightened. That's the spirit. This is a partnership. Let us embrace our vulnerabilities together. They don't make us weaker, they make us stronger as a team. Jason felt a ripple of newfound excitement. The air buzzed with opportunity. As they continued brainstorming ideas, the tension started to ebb, but something nagged at him, the notion of what lay ahead. Their collaboration had the potential to shape lives, including his own. Could he trust the process enough to see it through? Yet, all he felt was that flicker of hesitation connected to self-judgment. He looked at Emily, who seemed to read the currents swirling inside him. But what if I can't live up to the expectations? What if I let you down? Then we will tackle it together if it happens. But you must first believe that you can achieve great things, she reassured, locking her gaze into his. The sunlight waned, casting long shadows again, intertwining the precarious mixture of excitement and doubt. Jason took a deep breath, parsing through the tension that remained. His mind raced as he sought the courage to act on their collaboration. However, a kernel of unease unfurled within him. Okay, he finally said, I'm ready to dive in. But... His voice trailed off, the weight of his decision hanging heavily in the air. Emily peered at him expectantly, and so he pressed on, what if I fail to embrace this new part of myself, the part that you see? In the stillness, he felt that taut wire between them again. The challenge remained, and no matter how resolved he felt, the leap was significant. Was he prepared to embrace this new version of himself in a partnership that dared to redefine them both? With anticipation, he steeled himself. I won't run from who I am, but I know there's growth waiting on the other side. Unbeknownst to him, the answer to his question whether he could bridge that gap between uncertainty and empowerment was about to reveal itself in unexpected ways. Would embracing vulnerability truly lead him to a more profound connection, or would the remnants of insecurity hold him back once more? Jason suddenly felt the world tilt beneath him, the foundations of both his life and this partnership trembling as though something monumental awaited just beyond the horizon. Would he be ready when it arrived? The next day dawned with an unusual clarity, sun filtering through the thin curtains of Jason's apartment, illuminating the cluttered space that had become a makeshift sanctuary for his ambitions. Yet, despite the light, a shadow of anxiety clung to him. He had tossed and turned all night, reflections on his conversation with Emily racing through his mind. Today was the day they would pitch their revitalized project, and he felt the dual weight of anticipation and self-doubt pressing heavily on his shoulders. As he prepared, Jason caught his reflection in the bathroom mirror. The man glaring back appeared more vulnerable than he had ever allowed himself to be. There it was, the flicker of something buried deep, a new resolve flickered within. But could it withstand the pressure of scrutiny, of expectations? Perhaps today would require him to confront the whispers of doubt that echoed through his thoughts. He dressed in a crisp shirt, the fabric smooth against his skin almost akin to armor. As he grabbed his presentation folder, a photograph slipped out, a snapshot from last summer's retreat, where he had stood atop a mountain, wind tousling his hair. A smile froze on his lips in that moment, juxtaposed with the current emotional tempest within. Was that Jason, the confident leader? The one who had faced challenges head-on? Looking down at the photograph, he felt a pulse of determination. He had climbed that mountain, not unscathed, but with every ounce of effort. He could anchor himself in that moment as he stepped into this new realm of vulnerability. The office buzzed with excitement. Colleagues milled around, a mix of conversations and laughter filling the air. Jason's heart quickened, he could almost taste the fear of failure hanging thick in the atmosphere. They gathered in the conference room, a long table flanked by expectant eyes. Jason took a deep breath, trying to center himself, remembering Emily's words. As he rose to present, the words began to flow, fueled by adrenaline and hope. He watched as his audience leaned in, eager to absorb every thought, every idea that was now tinged by his newfound authenticity. But as the minutes passed, the confidence began to wane. Doubt tentatively nudged its way back into his thoughts. What if they saw through the facade? What if his shortcomings bled into his presentation? A critical question stirred within him. What if I let everyone down? With determination, he pushed the doubt aside. He paused, looking around at the faces in the room, his colleagues seeking to build something impactful. I want to share something personal, he began, the tremor in his voice betraying the calm face he wore. I've realized that success isn't just about numbers and milestones. It's about resilience, growth, and partnership. His words hung in the air, a tangible shift in the atmosphere. He felt the initial tension ripple outward, the collective breathing softening as he navigated this uncharted territory of vulnerability. After the presentation, there was applause, albeit tinged with curiosity. Emily approached him, her eyes lit with encouragement. You did it, she said, genuine pride etched across her features. I did, he replied, a pulse of astonishment swelling in his chest, an unexpected revelatory moment breaking through the cacophony of uncertainty. Perhaps he was capable of more than just strategizing. Perhaps owning his fears had opened doors he never knew existed. However, the celebration of small victories was short-lived. On his way out, he overheard snippets of conversation that sent cold tendrils of doubt slithering back into his mind. Did you see how shaky he was? A dismissive laugh followed. Jason felt heat rise to his cheeks, an unsettling mix of embarrassment and resolve. He clenched his fists, tightening around the folder that now felt less like a tool of empowerment and more like a weight dragging him down. Stay true, another voice murmured, Emily's voice, echoing in his mind. What had begun as a step toward growth now felt like a wobbly path of regression. As he left the office, deep in thought, he realized the road to self-acceptance was not a single leap but rather a series of gradual steps taken amidst the trials of external judgment. Tomorrow held another opportunity. He could use today's feedback as fuel, as rigor before launch, yet, uncertainty remained. Would he have the courage to truly sustain this new perspective when the next wave of doubt came crashing? As he drove home, something stirred within, the determination to confront whatever awaited, and the feeling of change lingered, like the scent of rain promising renewal. That night, he picked up the photograph again, a flickering reminder of resilience. Was the mountain peak merely a destination, or could it symbolize every challenge that lay ahead? As twilight deepened, an unexpected thought nudged his mind. What if the answer to his deepest fears rested not in further introspection, but in taking action, confronting those judgments head-on? Tomorrow, he would have to decide how to embrace this emerging strength, not just within the safe confines of a partnership, but in every aspect of his professional landscape. With this brewing resolve, Jason understood that the real challenge awaited, and he was just beginning to scratch the surface. Would the next day bring the clarity he so desperately sought, or would the shadows of doubt loom larger than ever before? When morning broke, Jason felt the residual weight of yesterday's experiences resting on his shoulders, but there was a flicker of determination lighting a path through the fog of uncertainty. He stretched, allowing a deep breath to fill his lungs, as the sunlight streamed through his window. Today was not just another day, it was a canvas waiting for figure strokes of courage. Jason slipped into his day's attire, deliberately selecting attire that projected confidence. His crisp shirt felt less like armor this morning and more like the skin of a man ready to face challenges head-on. He refused to let the murmurings he overheard yesterday rest unchallenged. Whether it was doubt, criticism, or a combination of both, he wouldn't allow external voices to dictate his worth or his narrative anymore. As he approached his workspace, a sense of purpose began to wash over him. He recalled Emily's encouragement, the way her eyes danced with sincerity. He had shared a piece of himself with his colleagues, and he knew that authenticity had the power to forge connections. Jason sought out Emily among the morning rush. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice even yet rich with urgency. "Of course," she replied, her smile already a source of comfort. Jason led her to a quiet corner, away from the hectic energy of the office. "I've been thinking about our presentation," he started, the words rushing out. "I felt great at the moment, but what do you think really resonated? I want to know if my vulnerability was just a moment of weakness." Emily leaned against the wall, her arms crossed thoughtfully. "No, Jason, it was something more. You showed them the real you. That's brave. A little shakiness can be endearing, it makes you relatable." His heart pushed against the confines of his chest. "But what if it backfires? What if they think I'm not cut out for this position?" Emily shook her head, disagreeing. "Leadership isn't about being invulnerable, it's about navigating through uncertainty. You have the vision, and you're not afraid to explore the unknown. Lean into that." Her words iterated inside his mind, each one sprouting another seed of confidence. But doubt still lingered like an uninvited specter, a voice whispering that maybe the focus needed to shift, to strengthen his resolve. "Maybe I should confront the ones who laughed. They need to see that I'm committed to something bigger," Jason said, fisting his hands at his side. "Are you sure that's a smart move?" Emily asked, studying his face. "What will confrontation yield?" "I don't want to be a doormat," he replied, finding strength in his emotions. "I need to assert myself. This isn't about them, it's about me stepping into my potential." As they exchanged ideas, Jason's imagination ignited. He envisioned a new plan to integrate opportunities for deeper discussions within the team, to craft a shared space where vulnerability was embraced rather than ridiculed. What if they could conduct open feedback sessions, a sandbox for fears and aspirations? This way, there would be a platform to redefine expectations, to let authenticity flourish within the office culture. Excited by the possibilities, Jason felt rebellion awakening against the shadows of self-doubt. If he could shift the narrative and provide a foundation for others to express themselves, then he could redefine the space he occupied. "Let's push for a team meeting," he said with renewed vigor. "I want to lay out this concept, set a new tone. And I'm going to lead it." Emily's eyes lit up with understanding. That could change everything. As Jason left the meeting with Emily, he felt lighter, as though he had shed layers of stagnant expectations that had weighed him down. But the battle against doubt was far from over. He still had to face the whispers, both outside and within, that threatened to shape his identity. Would he be able to hold firm against the pressure of judgment when the stakes were raised? That afternoon, he sat down at his desk, the glow of his computer screen revealing another opportunity, a draft for an email to his team. There was anticipation fluttering in his stomach and determination coursing through his veins. As he composed the message, he paused, contemplating how best to frame this endeavor. The potential for transformation loomed ahead, but it would require navigating through trepidation. Could he summon the courage to become not just a figure of authority but also a voice for mutual growth? With each word typed, a blend of fear and excitement propelling him forward, Jason realized that true leadership was not just about commanding respect but inviting it. As he hit send, a surge of adrenaline coursed through his body. What awaited him during the follow-up would be a defining moment, but as he clicked send, the buzzing sensation of doubt crept back, just a whisper, reminding him of the risks he was taking. Would those murmuring voices overpower his intentions? The spiral of uncertainty twisted anew within him, setting the stage for the real test of his resolve. Jason stood in front of the mirror, taking in the reflection staring back at him. He felt the weight of his path, a journey filled with vulnerability, connection, and the courage to break free from the shackles of self-doubt. The face that greeted him was not merely a businessman burdened by past failures, it was a man transformed, one who now recognized that true empowerment came from embracing his experiences, both good and bad. Today was pivotal. He was prepared to face his team and unveil the very initiative that had grown from the fertile ground of not just his struggles but also Emily's aspirations. The presentation was not just a business case, it was a testament to their shared journey. Standing tall, he reminded himself that he was no longer merely pitching an idea, he was advocating for a new way of approaching success defined by empathy and collaboration. As he navigated through the familiar halls, colleagues greeted him with tentative smiles, a few even offering nods of approval from yesterday's presentation. Their recognition felt grounding, yet the dread of unspoken judgments lingered. Jason arrived in the conference room, the tension palpable. Colleagues exchanged whispers, energy crackling in the air. Taking a deep breath, he stood before them, clearing his throat. "Thank you all for being here. I know yesterday may have raised some eyebrows." He could feel their skepticism, but he pressed on, recalling Emily's steadfast belief in vulnerability as strength. "I want to talk today not just about our project but about cultivating an environment where we can all feel seen and heard." The murmurs quieted as he shared how the initiative would not just focus on profit but on building connections, creating a community where ideas flowed without fear of judgment. He illustrated how he envisioned regular open feedback sessions, a safe space where the team could share aspirations, challenges, and foster genuine connections. With each word, the tension in the room began to ebb. Colleagues leaned forward, more engaged. The once harsh voices in his head transformed into a chorus of support. "Our experiences, both successes and failures, shape who we are. We each have something valuable to contribute, and together our potential is limitless." He illustrated how this project stemmed not only from a business goal but from a heartfelt need to redefine what success meant within their collective workspace. As he concluded, Jason felt something profound shift not just in himself, but among his audience. When he finished, the silence was pregnant with possibility. A colleague finally spoke up, "This is a fresh perspective. It's what we need to break from conventional approaches." Another offered, "Let us embrace this. I'm in." The dialogue flourished, and Jason felt an undeniable surge of exhilaration. Their shared excitement blossomed into an open discussion about what they hoped to achieve and how they could integrate their personal stories into the work they did. The energetic exchange washed away remnants of skepticism. They were connecting. As they wrapped up, a wave of gratitude washed over him. He had paved a way not just for himself but for everyone in that room. What had started as a timid attempt to connect had blossomed into vibrant conversation brimming with ideas and aspirations. Jason understood he had not only carved a new path for his professional life but had also proven to himself that he could create spaces for authenticity. Later that day, Jason found himself reflecting on the morning's success. He picked up his phone and reached out to Emily. "We need to catch up. Your influence lit a fire that I didn't know existed. Thank you for believing." As he hit send, warmth spread through him. He had arrived at a turning point, one that reconciled his past with the man he aspired to be. In the days that followed, their collaboration took flight. Plans took shape, and the initiative grew into something tangible, an embodiment of the values they both cherished. Jason savored the thrill of leading with authenticity and compassion. Watching as his team thrived in an environment that encouraged vulnerability, the final presentation to the investors came sooner than expected, a chance to showcase their joint project, both to secure funding and propel Jason's company towards a new horizon. He stood prepared, grounded in the belief that this time, they weren't just seeking numbers, they were asking for partners in a vision that mattered. When the moment arrived, Jason faced the investors not with fear, but with conviction. He presented not just the project's potential for growth but the story that had driven their efforts. It was a narrative of resilience, connection, and shared humanity. It was everything he had learned about himself and Emily embodied into one pitch, and when the room erupted in applause, it was not just validation of his work, it was recognition of the journey undertaken. He had conquered doubts, built bridges, and achieved a solid position founded on authenticity and cohesion. Standing there, Jason felt a deep, settled satisfaction that resonated from within, a confirmation that true success thrived not in isolation but in connection with others. The transformation was profound, and for the first time, as Jason exited the meeting room, he understood that he was truly alive in the pursuit of something more significant than just achievement. He was nurturing a life filled with purpose, now is the time for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories, leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and theories about the ending, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.